Hey everyone, good morning. I was just watching to see where they'd close us by 1:59 since the 2 o'clock period was coming up here. And 76.25 is 34 points from today's real-time open. So that's what could give us those odds of getting another 34-point break, which essentially would give us the odd of retesting that 69.09, 69.10 area. And these areas are directly linked in correlation to today's date. Today is our big flip date. Conditions for today were exactly what we wanted. So on the report, I had mentioned that the importance of today is to sustain at least 68.20s, 68.30s. Even if they just wanted to digest us in here today, that would have been fine. But the idea for today is what? What kind of flip day is today? What kind of a flip is this today? And they did a really good job of holding 30, 31, by the way, which were the minimum max ranges from yesterday's session, in case you guys forgot. So just as a refresher here, these were minimum ranges from yesterday. Back up to these areas here, especially off Friday's close. So these are 66-point ranges that they held here today. Okay, in case you guys forgot. So today they held 66-point ranges off Friday's close. This is a 66-point hold here. 66 points held off Friday's open close, which kept odds in play of continuing. So this is a really perfect break right here. That's for starters. This is also the 173-point hold, which is half of 346. Okay, so this is pretty good for structural holds. And then from a wider term break, we already determined that we had the 88-point offset, which they closed us above yesterday. So they closed us over 88 points, which was more than enough. So this kind of a structure break right here, 2 at noon, right at mid-session. If you guys saw this, right at 12:40, 12:45, they broke that 88-point break, which usually when you do that, that can set you up for another 88 points, which essentially would be what could get us back to retesting these high ranges. Where they stalled us yesterday too and closed is linked directly to highs. Okay, so these areas here are like linked directly to highs, especially off yesterday's high of day. I don't know if you guys saw that. Yesterday's high of day is exactly 88 points back to highs. Okay, so there's a lot of confluence from where they stalled, where they broke. Yesterday's highs are also on a 33-point break, takes us back to the zone. On a 44-point break, gets us back to our 69. 69.09 retest. Today's real-time open gets us back to 69.10. There's a lot of confluence here. Okay, so today they opened us at 6,842.50. I think somewhere right here. So this is also the 66-point break from today's real-time open. So do you see the confluence here? There's a lot of confluence in these ranges. So if we had a 68-point break, it would take us back to there. So I just want to give you guys an idea how these areas are very much aligned with one another in terms of highs, lows, open, close. So this is off today's real-time open. This is off yesterday's real-time highs. Okay. So both should ideally get us those retests. Not that they need to today, but just so that you guys have an idea. And then this could help us get those structural breaks back into the channel, which is what gets us back to our 69.30s, which we failed to do previously. Okay, today's open also is aligned with the zone up here too on an 88-point break. So just so you guys can see how there's so much confluence here. So we would know that maybe the next areas would be those 30s, which would also be a 100-point break from today's lows. Okay, if they were to do that. Off of the actual session, this should be aligned with core. Okay, 2-1, 2-4. Do you see it? This is off today's session open. So, in session close, we have alignment with core ranges. It's a core flip, so I would imagine 6920s have alignment here. 6920s, 6920s, around 2-3, 2-4, 2-5, 2-6. Okay. And once you hit 88-point breaks, you usually get 96-point structural break, and that's what could set you up for a much bigger move. Off of today's lows, 128-point break is what would get you that move to 5-7, 5-8 that we failed to do last time. And same thing, alignment with the mean. So there's a lot of confluence this week, okay, in terms of these areas here. The big thing for today, though, is what is considered max range? Which areas are enough to be considered max range? Is this 7625 area technically enough to be considered a max range for today's session? And they did exactly what they did yesterday. Remember, yesterday they closed us at like 33.5 points before the hour. Today they closed us at 33.75 points before 2 p.m. So 33 is enough. 34 is obviously better. So odds are still there, but it could now be a little bit back and forth if they want to start tightening range maybe a little bit or something. So 7-6 is really the bigger overhead here, and same with 7-7. We talked about these areas yesterday. These areas were also aligned with yesterday's ranges. Just in case you guys forgot, yesterday's opening range was 6,815.75. If you add 66 points to that, it gives you like 6,881. So we definitely know that these areas up here are going to be aligned with that. So just be a little bit mindful because these spots are obviously pretty huge. I do want to see if they can try holding like the 6-6 range. That's kind of the area that we want to try to protect. Something else that I didn't mention is last night, even though we didn't have expansions to core areas, our base condition was still met, right? What was our base condition for overnight yesterday? I said I wanted to sustain the channel, which we did. Ideally consolidate the means and test 6866, 6867, 6868. So this test right here last night in the first hour of the session, this helped us capture basically after, you see how they held this 5-4 area right into the session? This was the area that we really wanted to hold yesterday. They held it right away and then tagged 6-6. So this tag right here on this line gave us odds of getting core ranges today, even though they consolidated here. Okay. Is it better that we consolidated the means overnight versus the channel? I would say yes, because that would help avoid volatility. So heading back to the channel today wasn't necessarily bad. Do you guys remember how yesterday I said there was still room down to 3-3 from yesterday's real-time session back in here? Because they took it up and then it never came back. So we still had room to fill yesterday from here. Okay, so this break right here. And not that this is an issue, but usually the market doesn't forget these things. Does that make sense? So if we had odds of still coming back here, because this area was not filled yesterday. I don't know what color to make this. Let's just make this pink or something. And we never filled it yesterday. The market's not going to just forget about it. So I think consolidating the means overnight probably helped reduce volatility today. And since we opened in the channel, we had odds of sustaining the channel. Okay, especially because we opened above 37, 38, 40. We still opened above our minimum conditions yesterday, right? Did 41, 42, 43, 44 have confluence yesterday? Were they confined areas? If you guys remember. Let me see if you guys remember or not. Were those confined areas yesterday? Okay, right? Do you see how they still filled this today? No, they weren't. Those were not confined areas yesterday. Yeah, I know. I just want to delete these after, though. So they were not confined areas. So I wouldn't consider today a bad open, but it was still above 68.38, 68.40, which is good. It wasn't above 4.849 though, so it wasn't the greatest, right? So it gave you odds of at least back testing this downside. But this was the area that they failed to fill yesterday in real time. They held this area here right into the session. They broke 6.6, which is good. They digested the means overnight. So do we have odds of digesting the means in real time? If they spent all night digesting here, do you think that they're just going to bypass it here? Think about it. Yes, right? They don't have to digest this. They already did, right? These are the areas that we would have had to digest in real time today. So this was the clear break. As soon as they kind of came back over the channel here and snapped this stick here right into 12.15, right into mid-session at 12.30, 12.45, they have no reason to stall here. This is what I'd consider like a mean sweep, because they already digested the zone, right? They already digested this area last night. So, and then this area was just something that wasn't filled from yesterday, so they had to come back and fill it today. So hopefully that makes sense. And today is what kind of a flip date? What kind of a flip date is today? And this should help you guys understand this price action a bit better. I wasn't able to stream the whole session, obviously, but what kind of a flip date is today? And I mentioned it yesterday, and I mentioned that we should see these areas today. And technically speaking, it would be enough to be considered max range. What kind of a session is today? It's a core flip, okay? If it's a core flip, what kind of area should we sustain? Well, it could be a consolidation flip, LI, if they kept it channel bound, okay? If they didn't break this at mid-session, they can consolidate. That's if they don't want to take it to a new zone. But today, in general, is a core flip date, okay? I said that this morning. We at least, if we didn't meet that condition, then we didn't really have odds of today being a core flip, because let's say they didn't test 6667 overnight, we probably had higher odds of the consolidation coming into play and extending till the 17th. Does that make sense? Market also has conditions that it needs to meet for today's date. So remember how I had said this? Like, these were some comments that I made this morning, just because I think it's pretty important that you understand these kind of things. So and I said it yesterday too, we have high odds of today being a core flip date for core ranges. So what are core ranges? What are core ranges? And we have to remember too that we failed to meet these conditions on the 3rd, right? So the 3rd was a very important flip date, and we failed to meet these conditions. Remember how I said the 8-day can come back and start flagging, and then we could flag into mid, yeah, the 70s, the 80s. These are core areas, okay? So technically speaking, okay, you see how these all flipped over, now they're flagging? We don't really need to break too much more than this, okay? This is the one structure that had failed before, okay? These are linked with each other. This is the one that failed and failed to make that 3-day like pattern. The 6 days also linked with the 11th. You can see that. Do you see what I'm saying here? This runs till the 19th, so basically till OPEX. Okay, there's a lot of structures that are in correlation with the 3-day, the 3rd and the 11th. So conditions being met today are vital, because what condition was failed to have been met on the 3rd? What condition did we not meet on the 3rd and we knew that this was going to reverse? What did they not do for us on the 3rd? What did they not do that day? And it was one of the most crucial parts of the continuation here, at least until the 11th. What did they not do there? Because the 3rd is basically linked all the way through till the 17th and the 24th, okay? What did they not do on this date? This date is linked with the 7th and 6th, which is linked to the 11th, which is linked to the 17th, which is linked to the 24th. What did they not do on this date? And this date here can keep you in play until end of month for 7K, okay? Basically. What did they not do on that date? What trend did they fail? And it's been this trend for a while now. Look at these price points. What are these price points? What are these areas here? And that's been the trend. Look at these ranges. What kind of trend is this? Up until here. Look at these numbers. 20s, 70s, 80s. 20s, 70s, 80s. What are these areas? Core areas, right? So they kind of stopped that trend once we failed to meet our condition on the 3rd. What was the condition that was failed to have been met on the 3rd? Okay, and this kind of alternated right in here. So about, I would say about 10 days or so. Like when they had the flip, 7 to 10 days, 5 bars, 6 bars. Today's the 6th bar. Do you see the correlation here? From even when we started the core to core close, core to core moves, do they have odds to offset this? Since they have the 6 bars here that offset the core moves, can they have odds of resetting this to get back into those core to core plays, maybe at least until, you know, mid-November, November 17th, 19th, 24th. So 19th seems a little bit calculated looking at this now. Do you guys understand the concept? So what condition would have to be met as early as the 11th? It doesn't necessarily have to be met today. Meeting these areas, the 70s and 80s, is that not technically a core area? Yes, right? So this is enough to get you back to here, to the 20s, to the 30s, okay? Does that make sense? That's enough. Your conditions are met today. You don't have to do anything else. That's all you really have to do. We just have to try seeing if we can hold core areas, which we did. We held 6822, 6830, 6830. These are core holds today, correct? They held core areas today, right? These are core holds, core highs, maybe core close. The only way that they would have like mass expansions is if they came back, retested here, and pushed here. Okay, that's how you'd have a massive core break. Do we have high odds of that happening right now, considering how much time we have left in the day? And getting like 107 point move? Maybe not. Right? We only have an hour and a half, unless like we get some crazy news. Okay, so I'm just trying to put like some realistic expectations in place. We also have CPI this week. Okay, that could be enough to try getting us back to these areas here. Because if we can get back to here as early as this week, are you guys listening? The odds of getting back and retesting these core areas that we failed to do from the weeks prior, correct? Like we failed to get to these areas before. So maybe if we can meet these conditions this week, then maybe by as early as the 17th, maybe by the 19th, they could bring us to here. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's what could put that zone in play for month end, like 6,988, and then you can get the breaks to 7K. And when we looked at the ranges here too, these moves are exactly 347 to 346 to 343 points. 346 points, guys, from those lows is exactly 7,000, okay? It's pretty insane. So those odds could easily be in play if they start meeting these conditions in time, okay? 256 point break is kind of what would get us back to retesting this 69, 10, 12 area right here. So, and that's that lower high from November 3rd, which is linked to today's date and the 17th. Does that make sense? I just want to recap that because I feel like some people don't really understand flips. They don't really understand the purpose of it. They don't get the logic behind it. Today is a core flip. Did we have odds of today becoming a consolidation flip though? If they wanted to delay until the 17th. Because the minimum core areas we had to retrace today was what? At a minimum. It's on the report. What was the minimum ranges for the 11th? And the only reason it become a consolidation flip is because they already met those areas yesterday, right? So had they not had this mass upside expansion, then it wouldn't really be considered consolidation because it'd still be a big move. But we did a majority of the move in the first day of the week, right? For the 10th, before the 11th. So what would have been the minimum core areas that we would have to retrace? Let's see what you guys think. No, no, you guys think about it. The minimum areas that we had to retrace by the 11th. Pretend all of this didn't happen. What was the minimum conditions we had to meet by the 11th at an absolute minimum? Imagine we didn't gap up. Imagine we didn't get our 6, 7, 8, 8 open. Imagine we opened down here, right? Then we probably wouldn't have had as big of a move right here. What was the minimum conditions that we had to meet for the 11th? Ideally ahead of the 11th, which we did do, which is what's giving us the odd of getting the next core range. Yes, like getting to those 20s and 30s at a minimum, right? Do you guys read the report? Who here subscribed to the Substack? So an open in the zone at 6788 would be the best case scenario for us. That's going to give us the highest odds, okay? We opened exactly there. So that was really, really good for us, correct? Everyone's in agreement with that? This would have been an even better offset. Okay, so this was the absolute minimum area that you'd want to get back to by the 11th, okay? And getting back into this channel. So technically speaking, we've already met the minimum conditions. These conditions, though, give us better odds, right? Like getting back to here, we're tracking zones between 6688, 6788, 6832, 6888, 6932, okay? Normally before, and I said, look for the same ranges. It's going to repeat. So if we meet these conditions, we're back in play for core ranges. Did any of you guys even go back and read this? Or not? Did you guys go back and read these past conditions? This is going to be the same exact thing. Okay? That's what would help us to reclaim or try getting back into here. So it's the same thing. This now becomes vital. We have to digest this area. We want to avoid that, right? Wider range risk now is the same thing. It's the same exact thing. It's now back to 6817, 2225, right? To keep continuation odds in play so that we can eventually get to 6,968. Okay, when can we get to this area by? And we already knew that we had a lot of blockage around 5.8, 5, whatever it was, 5.3, and we hit the exact level. That's exactly where we stalled, 5.375. That's the exact area we stalled. So I know that these areas are correct. Okay, so do you see how they're trying to reset us up for a better odd this time? Does that make sense? This is what gets you better odds of getting here. So the 11th closing here, that's going to be really good for us, right? Because then now at least we have some better odds. And we can get odds of getting the retest of 69.05. We failed this area last time. This is what decreased our odds. We need more constructive breaks, okay? Retest for November 3rd was vital. We failed to do this. Do you see how this would reset us from the 11th through the 17th? This is just a rinse and repeat. It's going to be the exact same thing, right? Because we didn't really have odds until then, right? And we could stay stuck or sideways until the 11th, and they could bring it back on the 11th and 12th, right? We had increased odds of range breaks for November 5th, okay? So November 5th had odds of breaking down or breaking up range. Kind of just depends on what happened on the 3rd. Did we break down range on the 4th and 5th? Yes, right? They fully broke down this area here. Do we have odds of resetting these odds now here for this 11th? Think about it. Look at where they closed the 3rd. 7-8, 8-4. So, and it makes sense too based on ranges. Like if they close us anywhere near here, that's going to be an 88-point break off this week's open. Do you see what I'm saying? This would be a 107-point break off weekly lows if they close us anywhere here. Off of these session ranges, this would be 22 points. This is probably close to 33 if they get into the zone. Do you see how getting into the zone would give us even better odds this time? Had we stayed in the zone back here, don't you guys remember on the 3rd how they just barely held this range right here? Like right there. And we wanted ideally to get back in the zone, like how they failed 8-4. Do you see that? Look at where they stalled. Do you see that stall back here? Okay, so even though core areas are good, I feel like if they can close this in the zone today, that would be even better. Because then it's going to give us some odds of getting a zone retest for tomorrow, right? Or the 3rd or 4th. Aren't we normally trading in a zone or channel before major releases anyway? So which zone would you rather be in before this next release? Would you rather be trading here? Or would you rather be trading... So where would you rather be trading? Down here? Or maybe up here? Right? Like, we probably want to try getting here, okay? If we can't get there, then where do we want to get to? If they're going to keep us sideways, let's say theoretically speaking, they don't want to do either or. Let's say that they just want to take us back to a channel. They want to meet conditions today, which is good. They met core. Okay, great. We don't really have to do anything from there. Okay, they already met core ranges. If they decide that, okay, well, that's good enough. Okay. Okay, let's say there. Okay. And let's say there. Okay. Realistically speaking, which zone would you want to get back to? Because we have an odd, but CPI is when? On Thursday? Or tomorrow? I thought it was Thursday. Unless that changed. Yeah, depending on data or something they said. So, okay, they opened above the zone. Right at the zone. They already gave us great odds of getting to the next zone because they just jumped past this, okay? They held the bear zone. They got into the channel. They held the channel on top of the zone today. Do you see how clear this is? Okay, so if we can get here, you know, as early as, doesn't have to be today, but like let's say tonight or tomorrow, right? Because realistically, like if they close us in these 70s and 80s, I don't think it's going to be that hard for them to get to 8-8 by tomorrow. Do you know what I'm saying? If they do that, then we have pretty good odds of being back in the zone or channel pre-release. That would make sense to me, right? Which would maybe give us an odd as early as, let's say, the 14th, because the 14th is the final day ahead of the 17th flip, right? So Friday does matter too. I didn't talk about this much, but Friday matters. Technically, Friday could be the earliest day, right? Or Thursday that they could come back to retest high range relative to the kind of range we get today, right? And we didn't really want to stall at 5.375 because that's the means. So maybe if they break it just slightly higher, it could give us some odds that'll keep us extended, right? That's just one scenario. Or what they could do too, if they don't really want to push this too much, and I don't really think this is going to be the case, but like another scenario is that, okay, they push us here, maybe we meet these conditions here, they bring us back here, maybe we stall the channel. Okay, these are also some odds for this week if they want to wait until the 17th, 18th. Does that make sense, guys? Like if they want to actually wait till month end, they might still keep it a tiny bit back and forth. And then if they don't even end up releasing data, obviously that's not going to really move us to the upside if we have nothing to release. That could, if anything, that could maybe cause some volatility. So let's just make sure that we at least have some scenarios in play where in case they don't break and they could take us back to this channel or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? And then maybe keep us delayed until the 17th, because there are some odds that they could do that. I don't think that that's going to be the case based on how they've traded this week, but maybe that would be it. A big downside scenario would obviously be failing today, pushing all the way back down, making a big star reversal, and then breaking down the zone. That's the only big bear scenario I can think of here in these areas, but so far it doesn't look like that's what they want to do. Or another bear scenario would be to make a lower high beneath 6908, 6909, maybe in the bear area. That's a bear scenario. Okay? And that could cause volatility back down to opening range. That could keep you sideways because that'll just take you right back to the previous zone here too, right? Hi.
Hi.
What is that?
The gingerbread one. With one cup.
Thanks. Does that make sense to you guys? Because sometimes if they want to keep things back and forth, they just kind of recycle it back and forth between zones. If they do that this week, let's say, we have like a shitty Thursday, Friday, then they could just end up taking it right back the next week for the 17th, 18th. It's kind of annoying because these are usually back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We have odds of staying back and forth, by the way, until December 3rd. If they don't start breaking range as early as these days. Do you see why that's important that they actually start breaking some range? Because we have a lot of inside bars that could stay stuck until the 3rd. So that's part of the issue here. So 10-day is the first one that could engulf. So this is why we could take out highs as early as Friday. Okay, so just keep these, put these outside bar scenarios. So outside bar engulfing scenario for Friday on 10-day. Track these things so you can see how high your odds are. Okay, 11-day would be one that could maybe just keep you stuck. 12-day I think is just a continuational flip. 13 days, another one that maybe they just want to keep it stuck. It's not really an inside. Where's the inside bar? Let's put the inside bars on here. Okay, do you see this? These are ones that started working in our favor now because now they're flagging again from today's date. Okay, these can help us. Whereas these patterns here, like this one isn't bad. That one's a good continuation one that flipped over today and that runs till the 8th. This one's another good continuation. The 20-day, we talked about this flag that flips on the 17th, so this is another one that could also help for Friday's odds, okay? 22-day I've been using a lot. That also flips on the 17th. We did break a lot of these inside bar scenarios, but do you see if they keep these ones stuck, like these sorts of time frames? These are the ones that they could just keep stuck. And I'm not saying that they will, but there's just like slight odds that if they wanted to, they could. These are the ones that are a little bit scarier, because if they don't start breaking range and into OPEX, we get some volatility into mid-quarter, that could end up setting up for a nasty reversal until end of year, okay? This is if they don't want to break and get to 7K. Let's just assume, okay? But a lot of these breaks have now broken these inside ranges, like the 4-day finally broke, okay? It pierced. 5-day negated. This flips on the 17th. 6-day negated, now flagging. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? 7-day could also be an outside bar. This one is as early as today, which obviously is not going to happen. We're not going to take out all-time highs today. But do you see what I'm saying? Even them closing it over 7.2 is enough to keep it maybe durational till the 21st. And then these are the ones that flag. So we don't have too many inside bars working against us anymore. I don't think. Like, I feel like a lot of these have gone away except for some of these frames, like the 11-day. Okay, this one is one. This is the one inside bar not working in our favor, okay, because this is what could keep us stuck. So what do you think would be important to measure then? If we have inside bars and some potential outside bars and they all flip on the same day, okay, this is another inside bar till the 28th, okay. This could keep us stuck till the 17th. This one could just stay stuck based on structure. This one could stay stuck till the 24th. Do you see what I'm saying? These are all potential bars that could be working against us. So what days would really, really matter? This is another inside bar that could stay stuck till the 8th. Another inside bar that could stay stuck till the 28th. Do you see what I'm saying now? We have a lot of inside bars that we're working with right now. And it's not going to be until they start breaking range. They have to get back in the zone. So what would be the condition if met this week would help avoid staying stuck until month end, until like November 24, 28, December 3rd? What condition would have to be met as early as this week, you think, for that to be the case? So we now finally negated these inside bars, but 5 days still stuck. Okay. 8-day technically is an inside bar now, maybe till the 21st if they don't break. This is till the 24th. And today's the 11th flip. So, based on time, okay, which days do you think are important here? So, 4.5 would be around here, okay. What day do you think is very important? Yeah, the 17th, but obviously before the 17th, though. Because why would you wait until the bar flips to see if you're going to stay stuck inside? 17th's important, don't get me wrong, but you want to gauge things before they happen, not after they've happened. Do you know what I mean? So I would say like today and the 12th, right? Or today and the 13th and obviously the 14th, they're going to be very important in terms of trying to determine the odds that we might have. Does that make sense? Because technically we could stay stuck inside. So what conditions would have to be met for us to avoid maybe staying stuck in like an inside range if that was the case? Even just on like a smaller time frame, think about it. So if the 5-day, let's say this is 7-8, that's enough to break you out of this inside range, correct? Or the 6-day, do you see what I'm saying? What would be enough to break these from an inside range? The 11-day is like right at the zone. Does this make sense to you guys or no? This is more structure theory, but I think it does help. Especially in terms of understanding price to pressure. Okay, based on time. Is 7-8 a huge area for us? Yes, for starters, one, this was the session open back in here, okay, on the 27th. It's also our core area, okay. We already discussed this, but there's also a lot of confluence to price. This is 108, 107 points from lows. This is also going to be where is it? The 22-point break from today's open, and I'm pretty sure off lows, if they clear this range, this would be a 64 to 66 point break. So we already have a lot of confluence in this area anyway. Off of real-time opening ranges around 4.2. Even hitting back to these lows, we would be hitting at least that 33, 34 point break. Okay, close to 7.7. But ideally, we want to get closer to like 8.6, 8.8. I feel like that's better than stalling 7.8 from the 4th. Like 6. Yeah, like getting back over here would help us for sure. But it's just a way of us gauging whether or not we're going to stay stuck inside. So like them stalling right here right now, it's not really helping our odds. But what's one thing that could help us that we haven't ran out of yet? Based on those structures. Yeah, time. We still have a little bit of time left, so I don't think we should be too concerned. But I don't know why this keeps deleting this, but I think that should help you guys realize just how big this 7.7, 7.8 area really is, right? Like this area in here, it's a pretty big spot. And it's also our core spot too, so it makes sense because it's a core area, but does that help you guys understand like the session a bit better? So technically speaking, could we be capped for today's session in terms of range based on the conditions that are required for the 11th of November? Technically speaking, yeah, right? Because all we actually needed today was to get these breaks here, and since they broke early enough, that's enough technically. Or even getting back to 6.6, 6.8, 7.1, 7.8. Are these the best case scenarios though, stalling beneath 7.8? Right? Would we want 6.6 to 7.3? Or would we want 7.8, 8.4, 8.1? Give me the minimum. Give me mid. Give me max. Give me the best odds. I'll give you guys a hint. It's all core, okay? Core or potentially zoned. So don't give me any odds down here. Just avoid this, because I feel like if that's what they wanted, then they wouldn't have done this the last 2 days. So give me the minimum, the mid, and the max scenarios for where they could take this to and close the session today. and how this could help our odds for the 14th. And if you do these things, that could set you up to actually take out highs as early as the 14th, okay? You have to understand conditions and relevance to closing and opening price. Does that make sense, guys? Like, you're obviously not going to have high odds of you're not going to have high odds of closing or clearing highs by Friday if you close, I think, at 6.6 or 6.8 or 7.1, in my opinion. Like, probably not. Yeah, I would say min probably between 6.8 to 7.3. Mid is probably between 7.4 to 7.8. Max is probably between 7.9. Actually, we could do min, mid, ideal, and we could do a max. This could be like the highest odd scenario. I think that would be above 8.5. That's probably getting you into the zone. Probably like 8.8 to 9.4. That makes sense. What do we want to do here before 3? Think about it. So 248, 250 coming up, guys. What do we want to do here before 3 o'clock that we didn't quite do earlier? Yeah, and they didn't really close above that 7.625. We want to try seeing if we can try testing 7.8, especially around 248, 250, because this is going to help our odds for the 3 o'clock period, right? Especially in terms of like pinning the close. I don't have the levels marked on here. They're close to like this 8.1 area, 8.4. Just give me 1 second, guys. Are you guys seeing how heavy this area is in here? Like, is it all starting to stick? This is very important too because we only have an hour left. So I feel like if they break 7-8 before 3, it'll give us an idea that they could have odds of testing 8-1, 8-3, 8-4, maybe resetting, you know, the structure breakdowns from November 3rd and 4th. Do you know what I mean? Especially since those were around the 7-8, 8-4 areas. And it just happens to be calculated. There's the 7-8 tag here, guys, ahead of 3 o'clock. Let's see how much range breaks they could give us here before 3. Or whether or not they stall. We should mark the 8-1 area on our charts, like 8-1, 2-5, and the 7-9, 7-5, and also 8-4, because these are very big spots. This is what's going to give us an idea if we're going to get breaks into upper core ranges today, or even odds of maybe getting into the zone as early as the 11th, which could really help our odds ahead of the 17th. How many think that they're going to break 7-8 before 2? Or before 3, sorry. How many think they're going to stall? So they did test it. They haven't cleared it, though. 6-8, 7-8, break. I'll set this to 2 minutes. There usually are odds after... Sorry, I put 2 again. That should say 3, but you guys get the point. There's usually the 5-minute windows after 3 that I'm going to watch, but let's get some votes in there. Just stall. Ugh. Well, at a minimum, we probably want it at least over the 7-6, because that's the 34-point range from today. And they're not making this easy at these ranges anyway, especially since they can easily become pinnable. Where do they close? The 7.5? So what is that, 32.75 or 33 from today? So let's see if they can try resetting in the first 5 minutes here. Okay, how many think that they'll reset in the first 5 minutes of 3 p.m.? 5-minute reset post 3 p.m. You don't think that they'll test 7-8 again and break it? Well, we still have odds of breaking 8-4 though. So I feel like if they wanted any odds of getting into the zone, they definitely have to try breaking the 7-8, 8-1, 8-3 areas within the first half, I would think, because that's going to be the first area. Because couldn't they just break these areas and still consolidate us for up to half an hour? Like, think about it. Couldn't they still basically consolidate us even after breaking here? Like, especially if they want to make this, like, pinnable ranges, like, they could easily do something like this where, okay, they come, they break this area, but couldn't they just do this and then still bring it back to here? And then, you know, like, waste another 30 minutes to an hour in these areas. And then depending on what they want to do end of day, if they want to take it here or if they just want to stall in here, right? Like, because now we're hitting pinnable ranges. Into the close. I think the first 5-10 minutes anyway would give me a pretty good idea on what they want to do for like this first half. But I personally would like them to at least test 7-8 in the first 5 minutes, just so that at least it gives us odds of getting more range. Does that make sense, guys, or no? Because if they don't, then I'm going to be like, oh shit, they're just going to keep this beneath 7-8. We're just going to have another freaking hour of this, you know? Which they've already been doing this for 2 hours. Okay, since they've cleared 7-2, 7-1, this has been an hour and a half, right? What makes you think they can't do this for another hour? They could. We will find out. Thanks, Crazer, for sharing the stream. Link. Also, did any of you guys swing XOM with me for the November 17th calls? Or 14th calls? Like, this is hitting exactly the 120, 60, 120, 76 areas today. And I did mention yesterday this could easily get to 120, 121. Gold made a really good recovery too, back to that 4,124 to 28. And then reversed a little bit this morning. Gonna see it here. Now it's kind of gonna range because there's some midpoint, so this is kind of like a mid overhead. All right, let's see here. Okay, you guys have one more shot. I know the poll's over. Uwear thinks that they'll test that 7-8 by this 305 stick. And I'm gonna move some of these over. What do you guys think? Hurry, 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 because there's only like 30 seconds left, 40 seconds. It doesn't even have to clear it, but just how many think that they could at least try testing this range in here? Or within the next window. Like, I feel like they have to at least try. Like, even trying to get over 7-7. It would be funny if they did this, like, final seconds, though, too. Let's see. Have you guys ever watched someone watch something on a second chart before? So they broke it over 7750 and stalled. That usually means that there's going to be like that 1 minute delay. I bet anything they'd break at 306 to keep that extended 5-minute window open. There it is. See it? Look at that. Look at that 5. Look at that 10-second volatility here. Because they don't want to give up the line so that they can keep odds in play. And this will keep that secondary window till at least 309, 310. And mostly because they got back over this 7750 here. This isn't the best price action though, like regardless, don't get me wrong. Like this is more pinnable price action because it's like they're barely testing, but then it's not like they're continuing, they're stalling. Whereas if this broke at 305, this would have likely continued. Does that make sense? All right, let's see what kind of fun we can get here. And notice too, it didn't close above or anything like that, but what did it do? That could keep its odd in play even though it was a minute late or like 10 seconds late. What did it do? And this is what could help. And I'm not saying that this is like the most constructive break, but what did it do? Yeah, it broke over it, right? So it still took it out just by a tiny bit. Do you see how that could buy it a little bit more time? They're definitely trying to set this up for end of day though. Okay, so that being said, does that apply more pressure this time though to actually get some constructive closing sticks above at least 7.7, 7.750, 7.8 for that 310, 312 window? What do you guys think? Because for 305 and 04, we didn't necessarily have to close above 7.8. We just want to at least retest it and try taking it out. But now that they bought that second window here and they broke 7.8 but then came back, right? I would say that there's probably more pressure this time though for actually closing over some of these ranges. Like ideally at least 7.7, 7.750, just so that it doesn't give odds of this potentially stalling or being like the high of day. And this has been kind of brutal to hold through, I know, but unfortunately that's how some of these sessions can be when you're working to a pinnable close. Okay, how many here think that they'll get a closing stick here at 310, 312? So we said a minimum of like 7.7, 7.750 would be good. I think 7.750 would be better, but I just want to delete these though so it's not super messy. Do you see how they're trying? 1130 was, I would say 1130 was important because it was the higher calculated low. So it was a higher low off a calculated point in time, okay? Because that was the exact price for structure off that 30.75.31. So I just want to see something here. What are the odds? That runs till close, and that's 310. Interesting. 128, 320. 113. That runs till after close. 13. 9, 8 minute, 508. That runs till close, 309. That probably also runs till close. Uh, 35, 42, 21. Can you guys do me a favor? Can you check? Can you guys check these frames and just see where there's confluence in here? So check the 2 minute, 4 minute, 8 minute. 8, 3, 9. Okay, check those, and I just want to see if we have confluence here somewhere. Hold on. So let's see, 2, 3, 4, 8, 20. 320 has a lot of confluence. 39, 327, 5, 6, 18, 24, 30. Okay, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Okay. What is that? 10, so that'd be 320 again. 14, 14, 28, okay, 15. Obviously gonna be 330, 21, 321, 24, 36, 30, 35, 35, 42, 50, 70, 75, 15, 105, that's 3, 150 already passed, 175, 225, 210 just passed at 3, 350 runs till close. So this is potentially a durational type trade. 508 also close. 254 was 310. Interesting. 113. I think this was also 113. 339. Also into the close. So when did they break here? So this was the 12 break. That was the first close at 28.78, right? So we were right about that. Okay, so it seems like they had some odds right here for continuation, but then stalled at 13. The odds were 314.15. They have odds of turning this back around close to this 320, 18 to 21 period. Some around 335, 36. Most of these are into the close, and then there's a lot of odds after the bell today. So hold on though. That's after the close. Can we watch 3:35 p.m.? A lot of these odds are into close, but there's double odds here, and like same with maybe like the 37, 38. And I just want to see if they try turning this back around off this 18 stick, which they're trying here so far. And what we want to see, because I had odds at 312, but 312 wasn't calculated. It was more calculated around this 310 window, okay? Even though 312 closed, the only reason why we did to 312 is because this broke at 306. Does that make sense? So that closing there could give the odds here, but now we really have pressure for 320, 321. And we'll just kind of track these. Because this could, there's a lot of odds into close today too, like final few minutes. Did you guys cover some at 7-8 just in case? Because even off the 18, 19 sticks, like 19 stalling 7-7, 20 breaking back to 7-4, they're definitely trying to delay this or like cap the potential range that they're going to give for the session on that 7-8 stall. Sorry guys, I just don't have much commentary since we're pretty much in pinnable areas here above 6.6, 6.8, but beneath 7.8. So I think because they closed at 7.8, they could still easily come back and retest this, but this is a pretty important time of day around this 3:32 to 3:35, 36, 37. This point here, I think will kind of determine whether or not we're going to see any breaks of highs this afternoon, or whether they're just going to keep this stuck. Okay, so far that's a good stick at 32. I'm more so watching to see what they do during this period here, because this is a very important period to try negating risk to the downside and trying to see if they can come back, retract upside to come back and put maybe some better odds in play. So that's partially why I didn't worry too much. Sometimes it's better too if they tested 6.8 and then held. At least they didn't bring it to 6.6, so that's good. Because this is kind of the final window here, and then everything else kind of just gets drawn into the final 15 minutes into the close, depending on where they want to pin this. But I feel like if they can retract the 7.4 to 7.625 area at these points in the day, then they could have decent odds of coming back to retract this. What's the one thing that could work in our favor here? Just a little bit, not like a crazy amount, but something that could help us. And I don't have like extremely high hopes or anything that we're going to clear 7.881, but I'm well aware that they don't have to do anything after testing these areas here. But what's something that could help us for the last half hour of the day? What's something that could help us, guys, for the last half hour of the day? So far, 335 stalling, which is not the best thing, especially around these 70s, like 771, 72 areas. Most of these structures don't flip until session close, so 5 p.m., but the odds in real time are kind of limited. And most of it's going to be relative to where they sustain at this point in the day or where they retrace. Yeah, we tested 7.9, but what else did we do? This is a calculated time here at 3.7, by the way, to see if they're going to try saving some of the range. It was a little bit later than I would have wanted though. So a lot of this tells me that this could move into the after hours session. So not the best odds for real time, but we do have some odds for after the close. Okay. 3738 were some calculated flips. I just want to see if they try retracing here to put those odds back in play for the 340, 45, 48, basically before the final 10 minutes of the session, the real-time session close. How many people think that real-time high of day is in? Which really could be a probability here if they don't start breaking soon. The only thing that's helping is they closed over 7-8 and they held 6-6, but they're leaving a little bit of room for downside still. Max range. I'll set this for 5 minutes, just so you guys can vote on that. I feel like zone odds are pretty low now based on stalling here just after 3. At least for real time anyway. That could be more of like an after hours thing or into tomorrow, maybe. Also, when you have multi-sticks like this or multi-flips, by the way, like you see how there's so many in between, this is usually back and forth price action. Some volume coming in here. See if they can finally get some breaks back over 7,450. We're not going to really see any constructive breaks until they get back over 7,450, 7,625. And this 7,525, I think that's the 33-point break from real time today. So, okay. They haven't fully given up range yet, though. There's some flips at 342, 44, 45, and then end of day. How many think that they could bring this back to 6878 by 350? I think it was the 2 o'clock reduction that really just stalled us this afternoon. There's a lot of flips at 42 though. I had this marked a few times. I think there was only the 2 at 44 and the 1 at 45. Well, 42 trying final seconds here to keep odds in play for the final 15 minutes of the session here. I think the odds are fair, honestly speaking, because they tested 7-8 and they held 6-6. So, but I really do think that they're limiting this in this area here. I would be shocked if they gave us a zone break today in real time. I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think they would have reduced range that much before the 2 o'clock flip, and I don't think that they would have stalled here before 3. But I do think, however, that 7-8 can be retested, and they might give us odds of getting 8-1 to 8-3. 8-4 might be a little bit tough, but I guess we'll have to see. What is the majority voting? Highs are in, or 8-8. That's funny. So no one really voted for the 8-2 or 8-2 to 8-6 area. Okay. So 7-4-50 is trying to reclaim here. We'll see if they do by that 45 final 15 odds. 55 wasn't a flip, but I always watch 355. Good structure break off the 4-4 stick. And like I said, we need, I think, back over 7-5-2-5 for, and 7-6-2-5, because these are the 33, 34 point intervals from today's open. So I think getting back over these areas here, especially within the last 15 minutes of close, can just help our odds. Does that make sense? Into the final 15 minutes. So we'll see what they do. Especially if they can at least get over 7-5-2-5. It's the 7-6-2-5 area that's really a bigger overhead. So they tested it, no close above it. And then we've got a few multi-flips at 4-8-4-9. And obviously the 50. Did this at least help you guys not overtrade this last hour of the day? Knowing very well that they could keep this quite stuck if they wanted to. So immediate rejection after stalling 7-5-2-5, but because they did test it, they could try to bring it back by 4-8-4-9. This is really just price action that happens when price has to stay within a specific range. Is really all it is. So what price point do you guys think we'd have to be trading at by 350 in order for this to have any sort of constructive price action or price moves into the final 10 minutes of the session today? And we did have some odds into the final 10 minutes. Like most of these odds are into the close. And then we have got a lot of odds after the bell. Yeah, I would say at least 7-6-2-5. And ideally, probably before 350. Like, you'd probably want to see that trigger off the 4-8-4-9 sticks. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Otherwise, they're going to start limiting odds quite a bit into the last 10 minutes of the close. And that's where volatility could come in. Like, you don't necessarily need to be over 7-8 before 350. But I do think you need at least over 7-6-2-5. Or even 7-5-2-5. We'll see what they do in these last 2 minutes here. And you can see that there's a clear battle, I guess, between 6-6 and this 7-9 right here. Do you see it? Because they know basically that once either end breaks, that's when real range can come in. So far, bears have a tiny bit more control down here. We'll see if they can negate off the 349, 350 sticks. And then there were odds at 5-4, 5-6, and then we're going to watch the 355 candle. So far, does this look promising for bulls or bears, or does this look kind of conflicted? Yeah, and that 73 is about 50% of that calculated range, so they're kind of keeping this right in between. So we could definitely see some two-directional price action into the last 10 minutes here for sure, I would think. And it seems like they want to leave majority of the volatility probably for the last 5 minutes. So I would imagine that they would hold the line at 350. And then maybe try again here at 5-4, 5-5. So 350 trying to get back over 7-5-2-5 here. We already know that we need over 7-6-2-5 for price action to be more constructive. Seven, 6, 2, 5 tested at exactly 350. 7, 6, 2, 5 looking like they want to try closing there at exactly 350. That's exactly 34 points right at 350. That's pretty impressive. That's really calculated. This sets up odds to retest highs here into the real-time session close. We'll see if we can get some more constructive stick breaks in terms of follow through. Otherwise, that volatility comes back. Odds are closer though to 5-4, 5-6, so that's why they could just keep this still stuck until then. See if they can maybe try flagging at 5-2, 5-3. What would be the most ideal area you guys think to close this session today in real time? There's the flag. We've got about 2 seconds to test that high. There it is. That's a valid flag break, guys. See if they can continue this into the close. We did have some odds into end of day, which is the only reason I held a few contracts until the final 5-10 minutes. mostly because they also held above 6-6. And I figured because they closed here, they should be able to get a retest of 6-8, okay? Perfect breaks here into the close. Okay, I did cover some here just in case, and I'm going to leave 2 contracts, just in case they give us a continuation break here. 6, 8, 7, 9, 7, 5 being tested. I was surprised not many of you guys voted for 8, 3, 8, 4, or 8, 2, 8, 5 area. That's interesting because that's the spot that we want this to get to. And the odds are around 5. The fact that they tested here before 5, 4, 5, 6 is also really good because now they have odds to push into the final 5 minutes here, okay? I left 2 contracts. I didn't leave much. So I was thinking they could try testing maybe this 8-1 to 8-3 area. I think odds of getting to the zone weren't that high, not for real time. I would be shocked if they brought it to 8-8 in real time, but they do have some odds after the bell. Okay, so like just after the bell where they could keep continuing. But I would be happy even with them just keeping it around here even, okay? So 5-4 so far stalling. And I think it's mostly due to stalling that 7-9-7-5. Let's see how much reduction in range this is. Did this help you guys into the close? Just be careful because there could be volatility now since they stalled 7-9-7-5. And so far, that's a 6.5 point reduction, which is probably where I figured would be max ranges, closer to like 8-3, 8-5 if they cleared 7-9, 7-5. That's why I covered on that 53 stick. They have an odd to turn it around here, though, at 5-6, which we normally don't have 5-6 odds, so that's interesting that they left this open. What's another thing that they could do here? Right? This could be easily 2-directional PA into the close. They don't really owe us much more above 7-8, 7-9. How many think that they'll tag over 80? And just real quickly, guys, you don't have to be... It's not about being right or wrong. It's just trying to see what kind of PA we're working with here. Okay? So, to me, it looked very pinnable, which means I think they really want to try keeping it stuck in this range. And odds were higher for after the close to maybe try pushing a bit more. I would say since they did test 7-9, 7-5, if this 5-6 stick can retrace back over 7-6, then they could keep the odd favorable. Otherwise, there's still going to be some risk of back testing 6-6. This is basically like testing both ends of the trade to likely just pin it flat around the 7-4, 7-7, 7-6, 7-8 areas. All right, how many people now think that that high is the high? That was one of my... That was the answer I had, 7-9.75 to 8-1. That's what I thought they could do. So I voted for 7-9, 7-5, 8-1. And I was surprised not many people voted for 8-2, 8-3. But 5 people voted for 8-8 plus, which is kind of crazy considering they stalled. I'd say the most probable, if we broke 7-9, 7-5, and 8-1, was probably that 8-2, 8-3. And if they didn't stall here or reduce range here, do you see how they could have had odds of getting to the 8-4 to 8-6 area based on these reductions? Like, look, these are probably all in line with the zone. Do you see that? Look at that. That's in line with 6, 8, 8, 8. And it's mostly because they stalled 5-5. 5-6, do you see this? So 5-5 stall was 3 points. That's what would have gotten us probably that 8-2. This stall here was 6.5. That's what would have gotten you maybe like 8-5, 8-6. So seems like overall capped range was around 8-8 to 9-4. Didn't you guys say earlier too that we had odds of like the 90 area today, like 90, 91 based on calculated range? That's why I covered most here, okay? Because 7975 was calculated and they stalled. And I knew that based on how they traded during this period, we had odds of taking out 78, but not by much. Does that make sense? And they might save some of these odds for after the bell. Also, if you can't get a constructive break, are you better off closing higher or lower? Would you want to close at 7-8 and 8-4 if you're just going to go back to square one? Or would you rather close a little bit lower to maybe set you up for a second chance here? Lower, but not too low, because we don't want this to turn into a star reversal, right? Because they could easily star reverse this back down if they wanted to and bring it back into the zone tomorrow. We have odds of going back to the zone, guys, like, so just keep that in mind. Like, them not breaking into here today can still give us odds of coming back into this zone before CPI. So I'm just keeping those odds open. That's why I'm not carrying any index trades overnight. Where do you guys think they're going to close this stick here? There's the 6-6 test, like I said. They kept both ends open. Did you guys see that? They tested both sides. So I could tell when they, basically when they broke this and they held, do you see this? I was like, oh, they're going to leave a little bit of room. Does that make sense? Look. They left just a tiny bit of room on both ends. Basically to come back and test 6-6. Okay? So maybe, and that's above 7-8. Do you see it? Look. Do you guys see the range differential here? Do you see the offset? So, but based on where they actually hit, okay, that means they could maybe still get this to 8-1. I would be shocked if these don't align with 8-1. Yeah, they do. Do you see that? So that's why I voted 7-9, 7-5, 8-1. Does that make sense, you guys? Because based on the range that I was seeing, I'm like, and the fact that they didn't break down to 6-6 here, I'm like, oh, they left a bit of room. And they're smart about how much room they're leaving. They're doing that intentionally. So if we measure exactly 6-6 versus where they actually held, it was about 2.5 points. 2.5 points maybe could get you like breaks of 8-2. Do you see what I'm saying? And we have odds after the bell at 403, 406, 410. So that's why they could just easily bring it back up. So real-time close at 7-2, that's not bad. It met our minimum conditions. We'll see if they can push this back over 7-8 into session close. I think this is a really good session, even though it was a little bit of a boring one after this range break. But this was a really constructive channel hold today. Hold of the zone, hold above the 2-9, 3-1 areas. Great breaks into the means. They never even came back because they digested overnight, so there was no reason to come back beneath basically 6-4 after holding here. It was like a really good break of 5-2 to 6-4 and then continuation to core ranges. I think our max ranges were really good for the session today, around 7-8, 7-9, 7-5 to 8-1. We knew that we had some odds to expand to 8-4, 8-6 if they essentially cleared this area here a bit earlier, but they didn't, so that kind of reduced odds in range. And there were some odds of getting to the zone if they had cleared this a little bit higher by 5-4, I think. I think they would have had to take out 8-1, 8-2 and basically set it up for some retest as early as tomorrow. This could still easily stay back and forth, so just keep that in mind. There isn't really super high odds for the 12th. I didn't really have the highest odds for the 12th. There's some odds, but not many. So tomorrow could easily be a back and forth two-directional day, okay? Is kind of what I'm gauging, especially on this type of a close. So at the very least, maybe to keep some odds in play, we want to probably at least close over 12, 13 points, okay? And from lows, if they could at least hold over that 34 point ratio, maybe 44 points here, okay? So where they closed here was, it's pretty calculated that they're closing in these areas. Off the actual session open for the week, anything above 7.6 would be good. That's going to be an 88-point break. So even though it's lower than 7.8 and 8.4, technically speaking, it's more calculated. Okay, so sometimes closing lower isn't necessarily the worst case scenario if you can't close high enough. So, all right, I'm going to end the stream, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. If tomorrow's a bit of a slower session, I probably won't stream and maybe just save my energy for like Thursday, Friday, if we get CPI. Who knows? But I think odds of retesting highs are now just a little bit reduced. What do you guys think? Like by the 14th? You guys think that they can do it? Or you think that those odds are reduced? So from where we currently stalled, that's 74 points. From where we closed, right here, and opened, that's 95 points. So maybe, let's see, weekly lows to this current close and highs, 85 points. Let's see. They're kind of ranging in here. Do you see this? Look. Off all-time highs and like this high range and close. Do you see that? So this shows some confliction in between, which is why I'm wondering if they just digest tomorrow or something. I guess we'll see where they close this. All right,